Okay, I'm gonna start at the beginning. So this whole process of college and loans, and specifically I would like to talk about my anxiety that I brought up before. High school was pretty normal for me. I had friends and I went to a really small high school, like 180 kids. And so I wanted to follow suit with that for college and go to a small college, and I wanted to go to a college that was close to home so that I could go home if I needed to. And I wanted to specifically live away. Because growing up, I had a lot of social anxiety and I had a lot of uncertain anxiety. I'd be afraid of doing new things and going to places without support, like support of my parents or support of my sisters or somebody else that I knew. For that reason, I wanted to make sure that my whole college experience was completely laid out, like I knew every single step. I kind of did things because they tell you to do it. Like I remember appointments were made for you by the guidance counselor, at least as far as I can remember, because it was such a quick experience. I think I only met with her like maybe 3 times, and she just wanted to check if I applied to take SATs and applied to schools. And there was really no kind of, it's guidance counselor, but there was really no guidance involved. It was just kind of like a check mark. And the thing with me is I didn't really question it. I didn't push it. I didn't ask questions. So I was just that kid where if they don't ask questions, they're just kind of gonna be left alone. That was my guidance counselor experience, a whole lot of nothing. I would say socially, I went really downhill in college. I applied to one school, and that was probably because I was more lazy than anything. And I was pretty certain that I would get into this school. It was about 40 minutes from home. It was a really small school, and we went to see it before I even got accepted, so I was really familiar with the layout. I got in. It was nothing, it was everything I expected it to be in the first couple of months. I was really shy and I didn't have any friends. You get assigned a dorm in the first year, so everybody in the freshman dorms were new, didn't know each other, so kind of all were in the same boat. And that made me feel good, because for some reason I had this idea like if some people already had friends, I couldn't be friends with them. My first semester, I was kind of just the person that was there. I was kind of included into this group of a few people that were directly across from me in the different rooms. And for whatever reason, I was always liked, so I would be included in things, but I never talked, I never said my opinions. It was very simple answers, like yes or no answers. I was actually given the nickname Yes Jess because my answers would essentially be like 1-word responses. So after a while, that's kind of not a fun person, and I could see why in the second semester it was like I went silent. The group that I was involved with in the first semester completely vanished. I barely even saw them, even though we were on the same floor. I became like a recluse. During the time of freshman year, I went home literally every weekend. I didn't do laundry for a couple of months in the dorms because I didn't know how, and I didn't want to learn how on my own. And I remember my parents coming up for Parents Weekend. This was probably mid-October, and they showed me how to use the laundry room. They had to show me for the first time. The feeling I got of wow, I could do laundry was kind of uplifting. I still don't think I did laundry that much there because I was going home every weekend. I remember one time I missed dinner in the cafeteria. There was certain hours for lunch, breakfast, and dinner. Where my room was situated, I could see the cafeteria from my room. So I would do this thing where before I would go to breakfast, lunch, or dinner, I would look and see how busy it was. If it was too busy, I wouldn't go to the cafeteria. For whatever reason, I missed dinner one night, and I called my mom and I told her I'm really hungry and I missed dinner, and she asked if there was anything open, and I knew there was a smaller cafe where you paid money, but I think that was also closed because it was getting pretty late. And she actually called the front desk where guests check in. She called me back and said they have soup for me and that I should go downstairs and get the soup from them. And I remember saying, I don't want to go, and she's like, please just get the soup. Just go downstairs and get the soup. My mother called the front desk so that I could get soup from some people, from some workers, because I missed dinner and I couldn't go. I had so much anxiety, I couldn't go one night without eating. So I went down there and I got the soup sheepishly. And they were really nice about it, but I felt so embarrassed. And when I think about that story now, I'm so embarrassed for myself again. And if that same situation were to happen today, I never would get the soup. I wouldn't have called my mom, and I would have just dealt with being hungry, or I would have figured it out. Sophomore year is when things kind of got really antisocial for me. When I think back to my college time, I always think like I would do it again because I really liked the alone time I had, and I think I was able to really learn a lot about myself. Sophomore year, I went to a new dorm, and all of the people I knew in freshman year went to a completely separate dorm, and they all like roomed together. They all, you know, signed up together, and I was just kind of the odd man out, and I wanted to go to the dorm that I could see right across the yard from where my original dorm was, because I knew that was the safe place. And I got put into a room with some random other person, and they left the following semester, so I had the room all to myself. At this time, the campus cafeteria changed to now all the way across campus to where I couldn't see it. So my previous dorms, it was right in the middle, so I could look out of my window and still see it. In sophomore year, I could still see how busy it was and kind of gauge when I should go. For I don't know how many months, I ate in my room microwave food that I took home from eating at a restaurant with my parents, food from home. It was crazy how much microwave food I ate. I did so much like reading. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I was really into like some kind of small like yoga stuff where I would meditate, and I was doing a lot of writing. That's actually where I've got some of my best writing done. I had a few writing classes. I guess that time alone and sitting at night with just my thoughts, I was able to like create cool stories and situations. It's hard to fathom when I say I literally did nothing. I remember the first semester of sophomore year, I hung out with this one dude every night for a few months, and we would just watch TV. And one word response is like, this is no exaggeration. I would literally, like how I'm talking now is how a normal person should talk. I was just, yeah, me too. No? Okay. And I'm sure, you know, he probably had some interest in me and wanted to see if this could go anywhere, but I was a weird person and I didn't say anything. So after the first semester, again, nothing. I heard nothing from him, and we didn't talk anymore. We had some classes together, but it was like we were strangers. It was, and I caused this all on my own. Like, there's so many people that crossed in and out of my path during college who could have been more to me, but I didn't reciprocate. I didn't give anything. So, you know, that's a hard thing for the other person to kind of put all on themselves. It's like, well, if this person's not interested, and that was who I became. I remember a friend asking me in high school, like, why I'm so quiet, because I was quiet with people, not to the extent I was in college, and she was, I guess, really trying to figure out why I was the way that I was. And I remember telling her that when I'm with a new person, it's like my brain is shut off. I literally had nothing to say. It was very different, because she explained her anxiety as having these thoughts that she wanted to say but being too embarrassed to say them. And that sounds completely normal. That sounds like kind of but everybody goes through. I go through that on occasion now. My anxiety, the reason I had like these one-word responses was because somebody would say something to me completely normal, like, hey, I just took this class, what do you think? It was like complete brain off, and I still don't know what that is or what that was actually. And even talking about it now is so difficult to talk about, because it was like I had a wall up around my opinions and my brain. This friend in high school would say, why don't you just say what's on your mind? And I would tell her, because there's nothing on my mind when I'm around a new person. I've never heard anybody talk about anxiety like that, where they're so anxious socially that they cannot even have thoughts. And that's what I was really going through, and that was especially frustrating, because it would be almost better if I did have thoughts and couldn't say them, because I could work up to that point with somebody where I could finally open up. But like having nothing is like trying to build something without the equipment, and I feel like I had no equipment. Going into new situations was a little bit easier to identify, especially like starting college and changing dorms. I would feel that heart racing. I would feel those racing thoughts of like, what if I do something stupid? What if I trip? What if somebody laughs at me? What if I walk into the door? Stupid stuff like that. And I remember the first time I went to the cafeteria, the RAs were doing room checks like they normally do. And this was the time where I had no roommate. So they came into my room and I kind of took over the whole room. They had this checklist of things like sanitary checks, fire safety, nothing is obstructing any like exits or anything. And they told me, one, I had to move all my stuff to my side of the room in case somebody moved in. When they handed me the checklist, I saw that sanitation was checked off. I panicked because I thought my room was dirty because I was eating in there all the time. And just a funny side note, I remember this one time I had a trash can that I was throwing all my food in. For whatever reason, this dorm had a problem with ants. And I remember waking up one time and my trash can was filled with ants. I never threw something out so quickly before. So this kind of stuck in my head like, oh my gosh, it probably stinks in here. There's probably trash everywhere. So without even thinking, without even knowing the time of dinner, I walked into the room and walked in the direction that I knew the new cafeteria was in, and I swiped my card and I ate dinner. I remember it was a burger with like maybe one corn on the cob. I remember as I'm eating it, I'm like, wow, I made it to the cafeteria. I shut my brain off and I didn't think like, wait, should I check the time? I remember eating the burger and I'm thinking, okay, now I gotta figure out where to throw this out. So I ate my burger really, really slowly, and I was just watching everybody to see where they walked to throw their trash out. I figured it out. It was really simple. I mean, when you think back, everything was so simple. The only reason I was able to go to the cafeteria in the first place was because I thought they were saying my room was unsanitary, when really they were just making a checklist of everything that was good with my room. So in my own anxiety, I made the mistake of thinking something else, thinking people were judging me. It kind of shut my brain off and allowed me to go forward. So that's been a little insight into the first 2 years of my college experience and the anxieties I was going through, situations I was dealing with. Just to recap on the loans, I just made a payment, a $1,000 payment on my loans. So now they are at $38,499.28, and that feels pretty awesome. Remember to like the video, rate, subscribe, check out the podcast, Take Yourself Seriously. It's been a pleasure.